So MPUP-LEAD is a interprofessional project that is designed to prepare practitioners from 3 different areas: deaf education, speech language pathology, and audiology, and trains them to learn about, from, and with each other. That's like essentially the short definition of IPE, with the goal that by learning together and sharing each other's knowledge of each other's roles, their experiences, their expertise, and how they approach service delivery, it'll expand, the whole group. And they often work in teams together in practice. So the goal is to give them that training, build their proficiency in this type of collaboration, build their skill level so that when they get out and practice in the field, they can just hit the ground running.
Historically, I think IPE has been thought of as something that's just going to organically happen because you put a group of people together and therefore they're going to form a great team that's going to do great services. And I think in a more recent take on that, we realize that really it requires training. People need to know how to interact. They need to learn about roles. They need to learn about interprofessional skills that may not come naturally to them. And so this is an opportunity really to formally help people understand what it means to be a member of a team and to assure that they understand how they can help to facilitate that role. And that's really what this grant is about being a leader in that and helping not just themselves be a good team member, but helping to develop teams within the systems that they work.
MPUP itself has had a rich history here at UNL. It actually began all the way back in 2000 with Drs. Claire Ramsey and Melinda Icarius, who were both professors of practice within the deaf education program within the Department of Special Ed. And so they wrote the first MPUP. And then from there, there's actually been a total with starting in 2000 all the way to the new MPUP-LEAD grant, a total of 8. And so it's had a rich history. I really give them credit because they laid the foundation. We actually still at times reference their projects just because they wrote such great projects. And then interprofessional education has actually been infused to different levels in 5 of the 8 projects. After the original MPUP, there was an MPUP Early Childhood with Dr. Icarius and then Dr. Chris Marvin, where there were deaf education and early childhood special education practitioners being trained with some shared coursework. Interprofessional education has always been important, but as Dr. Weissling said, practitioners, we found that even though we may talk about collaboration, the importance of it and why they need it, we were finding that they couldn't always engage in it effectively in practice, right? Even after, receiving, I would say, information, about it, education about it. So we really wanted to enhance that by, figuring out other opportunities for them to learn about, from, and with each other.
I think one of the cornerstones of the grants that Ann and I have worked on in the last 3 iterations has been the idea of teaming, where students are working with each other together on cases. They're real actual cases or individuals that they're working with them and collaborating around ideas. And I think that that's been kind of a cornerstone of these last 3 that has really helped to solidify the interprofessional part of it. It's kind of a mini interprofessional practice element, which is another element outside of just educating about interprofessional practice or interprofessional ideas, right? This is actually practicing together and figuring out how you come together to come to solutions.
Well, MPUP-LEAD is really a replication of MPUP-SPADE, where we're training deaf educators, speech pathologists, and audiologists together. And we built in a lot of the same components. So we have the teaming course where they're using clients that they work with in the clinic or students that they work in the schools with and, presenting on them, observing each other, working with them, and then talking about it, meeting and just discussing that. We also have, it varies, but I think for this, the new grant, MPUP-LEAD, it's 18 to 21 credits of shared coursework, right? So we were intentional in picking out the courses that we felt would be most beneficial, knowing that the target population is deaf and hard of hearing. And then we also have built in a leadership component, which really, because we feel that's an area that of growth, that we could focus on, an area that we could tap into to enhance their skills as well. And our seminars, another component of this grant, as well as the others, is we bring them all to campus in the summer prior to starting and then the summer after. But we utilize that time, because it's usually four days, where we really pack it full of activities and topics that relate to the field. So evidence-based practice, collaboration. We have leadership activities. In MPUP-LEAD, we're going to build in a leadership project that they'll have to present on at the end of their programs.
I think that, every time you do one of these projects, you're looking to improve or make the next one the next step. And so I think when Ann and I talked about what's next, for me, it really was leadership, because we're now have quite a few scholars that we've put out into the community that have learned how to work in an interprofessional way, in a successful way. But the next piece is getting them to lead their systems forward, whether that's a school district or a clinic. And so to me, it was just a natural fit that the next step was to train leadership. Because again, as we discussed with interprofessional education, we often put people into leadership positions without any formal training in how to be a leader. And we know that that's maybe not the best way for it to evolve. And so this just seemed like the next natural fit in terms of the evolution of these projects.
Right. And one word I've heard you use and we've come across is this idea of making, we want change agents, right? We want to train change agents. Our scholars will be able to go out in the field and make real, substantial, impactful changes within the educational system, within the larger society, to improve the outcomes of the individuals they serve. So I've always felt like from the moment I came here, Berkeley is, we're so unique that we have the Department of Special Education and Communication Disorders has 3 programs: the audiology program, the speech path program, and the special education program, all housed under one roof, right? We're all here together. And so I kind of saw it as we are perfectly poised to be able to provide interprofessional training, because we have the faculty here in one building. We have many of the students, other than the deaf ed students, because they're all online, but we can bring them together. And so it really was somewhat of a no-brainer. It was just one of those where it felt it was so available to us, and we took advantage of the opportunity for that.
I think another unique aspect about this department, the Department of Special Education and Communication Disorders here at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, is the fact that it is a unique configuration. There aren't a lot of departments that are configured in this way. A lot of speech pathology and audiology programs are configured within large medical centers. And so there's lots of disciplines there to collaborate, and there's lots of opportunity for that. But one of the unique aspects here is that while we're big, we're also small. So there's, special educators, speech pathologists, audiologists right next door to each other, having coffee, having donuts on Fridays. And so there's that opportunity for this kind of natural catalyst to happen around projects. And I think as the department has evolved, more and more of that is happening all the time, as we see the need to be stronger together, which is actually the basis of interprofessional education, right? The education that we provide to individuals that have disability and differences really is made better when we work together rather than separately. And we see the same thing as faculty. When we work together, we're better. And so that's kind of my motto, is we're always better together.